Hey, it's Light. And one of my many jobs as an AppSec engineer is working with developers, helping them write more secure code, tracking their remediation efforts, and then validating the fixes. Basically, I spend a lot of time talking to developers. And when you do that long enough, you start to notice the same questions coming up over and over again. So in this video, I'm going to tell you the top 5 questions developers always ask me. And then I'm going to give you my answer to those questions. And I promise you, it's not going to be because I said so, which is usually an answer that I hear a lot of dev teams get from security. You won't get that. Instead, we're going to talk or actually walk through the logic behind them so you understand why these things matter. And then hopefully you'll have enough understanding that you won't even ask these questions again. So let's jump into it. Here's a list. 1, why is this mandatory? 2, do I have to fix this? 3, we can't fix this right now. What can we do? 4, why do I even need this? And 5, what's the timeline for this? And that's like my favorite one. So if you're a developer, software engineer, or even a fellow AppSec professional watching this right now, does any of that sound familiar? Developers, how many of those questions have you even asked before? AppSec people, how many times have you heard them? And don't just keep that in mind. Drop that in the comments. Please let me know, because I want to know. This is not about blame. It's about collaboration and communication, and being able to identify where the gaps are will help us. Also, what are some of the questions you didn't hear? Comment that too, because I want to know. I've been in cybersecurity for over a decade, and AppSec being about 5 or 6 years of that decade. So I've worked with dozens of teams across multiple industries, and I've been asked tons of questions, and they always tend to overlap. So much so that after a while, I started noticing patterns and gaps behind those patterns. There's always a root cause behind an overlap. I firmly believe that. So every time I get these questions like, why is this mandatory? Do I have to fix this? Why do I even need this? I start looking for the patterns, because when I hear the same thing over and over again, it usually means something's missing. Either there's no standard to point to, there's no documentation, there's a gap, there's a communication gap, or the relationship between security and dev just isn't there. And sometimes it's all the above. So when someone asks, why is this mandatory, or do I really have to fix this? What I'm really hearing is, I don't see the purpose. And that's fair, because developers need to tie their work back to something: functionality, deadlines, business goals. They'll ask questions like, I've been asked questions by developers like, I fixed this, so why is it coming back to me? Or did it break something else? Those are logical questions that I get, and the developers want context, not orders. And that's something we forget in AppSec. We're not technically client facing, but we do have clients. Our clients are the developers. They're basically saying, help me understand how this fits into the bigger picture. And no, AppSec folks, it's not just about the OWASP top 10. This goes beyond that. Developers are asking, why does the business need this when it's not even making us money? Because let's be honest, security doesn't generate revenue. We usually cost the company money. So if we can't explain the value of what we're asking for, we just sound like some blockers. And that's where frameworks like NIST, PCI DSS, and even CIS controls and others come into play. They give structure and justification. They help tie security requirements back to something concrete, such as compliance, risk reduction, customer trust, and just plain good engineering hygiene. So once developers see that connection, the why clicks. Suddenly it's not security said do this, it's this helps protect our users, keep us compliant, and keeps us out of the headlines, something we all don't want, because I want to keep my job. Now, when I hear questions like, we can't fix this right now, so what are we supposed to do about that? And what's the timeline for this? That's my favorite one. What's the timeline? What it translates to me is that teams aren't aware of a system or process that may or let's be a little honest, may not be in place for the AppSec program or the application security program. For example, a team is on a time crunch to hit a release date. That security finding, and let's suspend reality, has a medium level risk associated with it. The likelihood of exploit is there. And a security professional understand why I said suspend reality. So the dev team needs to hit that deadline because the business is counting on them. And with the economy how it is now, at least in America, this could be the difference between hitting revenue goals or missing a release and losing momentum, or worse, people's jobs. So we have to be a little practical and flexible. There has to be a process for that, because that finding still needs to be documented and tracked, and it needs to be clear that the team plans to come back to it. And let's go back real quick, because what I'm saying here, when I said suspend reality, I say that because I don't want to get beat up by whoever in whatever scenario about criticals and highs are only supposed to be that. I get it. I know. But I don't want to debate on the nuances of every critical and high and stuff like that. Let's just suspend that and just say it's caught on a medium, because I don't want to get beat up in the comments. But in any case, if that finding gets caught up on, gets hung up and it has an exploit known to it, that alerts the security team and say, we're concerned about it. And the team is just like, well, we'll get back to it. We need to meet this release date. That needs to be documented, as I said. And the documentation is where security is most concerned, because we care about accountability, obviously the documentation, so that when audit season comes and auditors come down our throats, or comes around, or even directors for IT and security come and ask, why is it taking so long for the findings we have something tied back to get remediated? This is a higher or critical. This is a medium. Like, why is it out of SLA? In most cases, I've often suggested an exceptions process to this. So it starts with a form where the managers acknowledge that they're releasing the product with the issue present, accepting the risk, but committing to fixing it by a set timeline. This creates an extended SLA, or service level agreement, right? So most security and QA teams follow industry standard SLA. So if you're not familiar, know that 14 days to fix a critical, 30 days to fix a high, 90 for a medium, 120 for a low. Now that's standard practice, though some orgs may push harder depending on their risk tolerance and industry requirements. That's usually standard. So if you want to know more about this, why there's standards, check out my other video, links in the description below and across this link up here, about cybersecurity standards and policies and how they play a role in shaping business decisions. So here's the quick recap of what we talked about, because I wanted to just go quick. My real answers to those 5 questions. Why is this mandatory? Because every requirement ties back to protecting the business, whether that's compliance, customer trust, or risk reduction. It's not random. It's mapped to something measurable. NIST, CIS, something of that nature. 2, do I have to fix this? If it's valid, yes, but fix based on severity and risk. You don't fix everything at once, but you track everything and stay accountable, prioritize, and make sure you hit your SLA or your service level agreement. 3, we can't fix this right now. What can we do about it? Use an exceptions process. AppSec, create one, document it, accept the risk. Let them accept the risk and set a date to come back to. No hiding, no ignoring, just transparency, right? 4, why do I need this? Because secure software isn't just about protecting code. It's about protecting data, users, and the business's reputation. So security is quality. You need it. And then 5, what's the timeline for this? That's driven by your SLA, your severity level, and your business's tolerance for risk. Everyone should know those expectations before a ticket is even assigned. And that's how I pretty much answer the questions I hear from the developers. The goal isn't to stop progress. It's to make sure progress is secure, intentional, and documented. And if this helped you get clarity or a language you can use with your own teams, hit that like button, share it with your team, and let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.